All right, so get ready. We're heading to the Himalayas today. But we're not just here for the mountain views. Today we're going on a deep dive into the cultural side of Himachal Pradesh.
Yeah, a really fascinating area.
Definitely. I mean, this one state has had a huge influence on Indian arts, literature, even Bollywood.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking folklore, paintings, architecture. I think people will be surprised to learn how much Himachal Pradesh is already part of things they know and love.
Exactly. I mean, think of some iconic Bollywood movies. Jab We Met. Yeah, Jawani Hai Diwani. Both set in the middle of those incredible Himachal landscapes.
Right, and it's more than just a pretty backdrop, too.
Yeah, those mountains really become part of the story.
What's interesting to me is how often those landscapes actually mirror what the characters are going through, like their emotional journeys, you know?
I like that.
For example, think of Geet in Jab We Met. Remember how her whole, self-discovery thing unfolds, and it's happening against these vast open mountains? It's like the scenery itself is emphasizing her need for space to find herself.
Huh. You know, I never thought of it that way before. But yeah, that makes total sense. It's like Himachal is adding a whole other layer of meaning to the movie.
Exactly. And that connection to nature, it runs deep in all of Himachal's culture, not just films. You see it in the literature, too.
Yeah, true.
All those folktales, poems, novels, they're always coming back to nature and spirituality, really capturing, the essence of life up in the hills. Authors like Manohar Singh and Shiv Kumar Batalvi are great examples of that.
Oh yeah, Batalvi, I was actually reading about him recently. It said his poetry was deeply connected to the Himalayas.
Right.
Didn't he compare the mountain peaks to wise old men, like they were holding the secrets of the universe or something?
Yeah, his work is full of those deep emotional connections to the mountains, almost like they were actually, speaking to him, giving him wisdom.
Wow, that's such a powerful image. And speaking of visuals, this whole connection to nature, it's not just in the writing, is it? I mean, think of all those incredible wood carvings you see at Himachal's temples.
Absolutely. Those are amazing. And I think most people don't realize they're much more than just beautiful decorations. Those carvings, they tell stories too. And they're done with such skill using local cedar and pine.
Right, yeah.
But many of them actually depict scenes from the big epics, like the Ramayana, a story of love and duty, or the Mahabharata, which is, about family and war and everything in between. Both, of course, are really important in Hindu mythology.
So it's like a whole art history lesson is built right into the temple.
Exactly.
I'll admit, I always just thought they were pretty, but now I'm going to look at them with new eyes. And of course, you can't talk about Himachal art without mentioning Pahari painting. I mean, those colors, that style, it's just captivating.
There's actually a really interesting detail about the colors they use. They actually match the seasons. So there are specific color palettes for spring, summer, monsoon, winter, almost like a visual calendar embedded in the art itself.
Whoa, I love that. I've always been fascinated by how art can show the passage of time, can you give me an example? How do the colors actually connect to the different seasons?
Sure. You'll often see vibrant greens and blues to show, the lush landscapes during the monsoon season. But then warmer oranges and yellows might be used to represent the golden light of autumn.
Oh yeah, okay, I see. So we've got these incredible landscapes, the literature is moving, and then the art forms are just so captivating. But what about music and dance? Does Himachal Pradesh have any unique traditions there too?
It does, yeah. Himachal Pradesh has this really rich tradition of folk music and dance. Forms like Nati and Cham, they're full of energy, and they're often tied to the local festivals and rituals there.
I think I've heard of Nati. Isn't that the one known for the lively rhythms and the colorful costumes? What kind of stories do they usually tell through those dances? Or themes, I guess?
Well, Nati often celebrates the everyday life of people in the hills, their connection to nature, the importance of community. Some Nati performances will actually show scenes of farming or harvesting, or even just simple village gatherings, all set to these really catchy rhythms.
It's amazing how dance can be a window into how a whole community lives. And I've actually heard that some of these traditional forms have influenced more modern music and dance in India too.
Oh, absolutely. There are choreographers like Ashley Lobo who've taken elements of Nati and put them into their modern pieces. So it's bringing those traditional moves to a whole new audience. And then in music, you'll find people blending folk rhythms from Himachal into contemporary genres. It creates this really interesting fusion of old and new.
So even as these traditions are being preserved, they're evolving at the same time, finding new ways to express themselves. It's like this thread connecting the past to the present. We've been talking a lot about art, though. What about the architecture in Himachal? Does it have its own unique style?
Definitely. Think about the typical Pahari-style architecture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those sloping roofs, the wooden frames, all designed to withstand the climate up there. It's pretty different from what you'd see in other parts of India.
That's true, but wouldn't you say that, like, the colonial influence is also visible, especially in places like Shimla with all the Victorian-era buildings?
Oh, that's a good point. And that's actually what makes Shimla's architecture so unique. You get this blend of the traditional Pahari style with, those British colonial elements. It's almost like a visual representation of the region's history, like all these different forces that have shaped it.
It makes you realize that architecture isn't just about being practical. It also tells a story. So we've seen how Himachal Pradesh has shaped the arts, the stories, even the way buildings are designed. But this influence, it doesn't stop at the state's borders, does it?
No, not at all. Himachal's culture has had a much wider impact. Think about events like the Kulu Dussehra festival. It's huge, and it attracts people from all over India.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. Isn't it like this amazing spectacle with processions and traditional music?
Yeah.
And they reenact the Ramayana, right?
Exactly. And that's just one example. You also have Himachal's art being shown in galleries and exhibitions internationally. And they have these literary festivals that are held right there in the state, drawing authors and artists from all over the world.
So Himachal is becoming a kind of hub for cultural exchange, with its traditions reaching a global audience. But isn't it interesting, too, how these traditions are also constantly evolving within Himachal itself?
That is fascinating. You have these ancient folk dances, inspiring, like contemporary choreographers, age-old stories being retold in these brand new, exciting ways. Himachal's cultural legacy isn't this static thing, it's alive, It's breathing, it's constantly being reinterpreted and revitalized.
Like a river, right, constantly flowing, changing, but always connected to its source. Okay, so we've covered a lot, from Bollywood to Pahari painting, wood carvings, architecture. What would you say stands out to you as particularly significant about Himachal's cultural contribution?
What really strikes me is the role of spirituality. Like how deeply it's shaped the arts and literature in Himachal. It's woven into everything, from the symbolism you see in those temple carvings to the themes of introspection and self-discovery in so many stories set in the mountains.
Yeah, that aspect of Himachal has always resonated with me too. It's like the landscape itself, Those towering peaks, those serene valleys, they create this sense of awe and wonder that naturally leads you to spiritual exploration.
Exactly. And that connection to spirituality has resonated with people for centuries. And it continues to inspire artists and writers today. Himachal's culture isn't just about aesthetics, it's about tapping into something deeper, something that connects us to the natural world, to ourselves, to something, bigger than ourselves.
And that's a message that can reach anyone, anywhere, right? It goes beyond just geography.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as Himachal's culture keeps evolving and spreading, it has the potential to touch even more lives and inspire new generations to explore these timeless themes.
Yeah, it's like Himachal Pradesh is showing us this way of life, one that values simplicity, connection, appreciation for the world around us, I think we could all use a little more of that these days.
I agree, definitely. It reminds us that sometimes the best experiences are the simple ones. Slowing down, paying attention to nature, connecting with, that inner self.
So from those breathtaking mountain views, the art, the stories, even the unique architecture, Himachal Pradesh has really made its mark on Indian culture. And what's even more interesting is how those traditions are both being preserved but also constantly changing.
It is pretty amazing. I mean, you have these ancient art forms like Nati, and they're now inspiring contemporary dance. And those age-old stories from the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, they're being retold in modern art and literature. It's like culture is this living thing, always changing, but also rooted in the past.
And as we wrap up our deep dive here into the cultural influence of Himachal Pradesh, what part of it really stood out to you? And what other hidden gems maybe are out there waiting to be discovered in India's diverse landscape?